All right. Good morning. And again, praise God for all he has done for us. The Lord has been good to all of us on today. And again, we celebrate his grace, his mercy, his truth, his peace, his love, his joy. We thank him for salvation in and of itself. And then God be praised for all that he has done. Listen, today, those of you that are getting ready, don't forget today we take time to recognize cancer survivors, those that are dealing with cancer now, and we honor those who passed away due to cancer. So again, our colors today are pink and blue. Wear it however you want to wear it. Again, but we want you to be aware, we're going to take a minute to pause and remember them during our 11 a.m. service. Great things are happening now in the ministry. And again, we thank God. Let me take a minute to celebrate the women of worship. They did a fantabulous job on yesterday. We told you that we were thinking that we were going to go over 10,000 diapers. And if I'm not mistaken, we got close to 12 for the year, close to 12,000 for the year. So again, thank God. And again, thank God for all the volunteers that are working with this ministry. Again, we're slowly ebbing back into ministry. Everything is not fully up and functional. We're just gradually moving back in, which is the game plan. So again, we thank God for that. Other ministries will start to open up, as we get the clearance and as we get people ready for that. So again, keep that in mind. This upcoming week, there's two things you need to be aware of. Number one, starting tomorrow night, the Wolverine State Congress of Christian Education will be in session. There are several classes, certified classes, that are open. If you want to take the classes, you can. We have paid our dues for the year. And so all you have to do is go to the Wolverine State Baptist website, go to the Congress section, and you will see how to access the classes. Today is the day you need to register. Don't try to get in there tomorrow. I don't think you'll be able to get in. It did say the deadline is today. And those of you that struggle with that, make sure you speak to Trinell today, all right, before you leave. That way you can make sure that you are good to go. That's going to happen the 18th, I believe, up until the 20th. Monday through Wednesday, I believe, or Monday through Thursday. So be aware of that. The 23rd, next Saturday, the Saginaw African American pastors will be at Hoyt Park doing vaccinations. Tell your family, tell your friends, we need them there to get vaccinated. It is paramount. Paramount means it is important. We've got to get community immunity. And so for those that get their shots there, and let's understand, they're giving out Moderna, which is good for those 18 and above, and Pfizer for those that are 12 and above. For those that get the shot, you get tickets to automatically go into the children's zoo for ZooBoo. Plus, you get personal protection equipment. You get a gift card. Excuse me, there's going to be a food truck there. All you're doing is just going up and telling the guy at the food truck what you want from the truck. Again, compliments of the Saginaw African American pastors. There are T-shirts and other materials that'll be available. You don't want to miss it. Get your family and friends. Get those that were once hesitant and now know they need to do it. Have them come out for that. On the 30th, which is the following weekend, we're going to be at three sites. We're going to be at Mount Zion Baptist Church in Burt, Michigan. We're going to be at Mount Calvary on the south side, 3610 Russell Street, and All Nations Church. I think the address is 608 20th Street. And anyone that goes to those three sites and gets the vaccination, they get put in. The name gets put in for a raffle. I think the raffle is a flat screen TV or an Xbox. Plus, they get a gift card, they get T-shirts. Again, the purpose is to get people vaccinated, okay? We want to get community immunity. So please make sure you're doing all you can. And let me just again remind those of you that got the shot already, continue to wear your mask. Okay? People keep saying, well, we're COVID tired. How you going to get tired when you're in the midst of a pandemic? Okay? When you do stuff like that, this is me talking. When you do stuff like that, you get careless. And when you get careless, you open yourself up so that at the end of the day, you get exposed. Now, even though you got the vaccine, I need to remind you, you need to understand until we can get community immunity, you can still possibly contract COVID. Okay? Now, the word is that it won't be as bad as those that have it. The effects won't be as bad. But why even take the chance? Okay? Now, there's supposed to be a booster shot coming out. And certainly they say when you get that, your body will be 100% immune from COVID. But until then, wear your mask, make sure you're sanitizing and doing all of the above. I cannot underscore that enough. I'm doing that. Wherever you see me, I'm wearing a mask because there again, I want to be safe and I want people around me to be safe. It's not just about me protecting me. It's about me being protected from you. All right. People are arguing and debating about it. It's a no-brainer for me. I'm not going to debate anybody about it. I'm wearing a mask. Okay. And, at the end of the day, my wearing a mask is going to protect me, my family, and those I connect with. When you come to church, we require you to wear a mask while you're here. And the proper way to do it is to make sure that it's over your nose and over your mouth. Okay. That's the proper way. You do know you can breathe in droplets that might potentially be in the air. That's why they tell you to cover your nose and your mouth. Okay, that's so critical. All right. On the 31st, which is next Sunday, or the following, not this next Sunday, but the following Sunday. On the 31st, from 4 to 6, we're going to do Harvest Festival in the park, where we're giving away candy and popcorn, and there's going to be 2 types of photo booths. There's going to be one called a photo shoot, and then there's going to be the 360 photo booth. Okay? It's going to be a great thing. I think we've got some hot dogs, some other things that we might throw out there. We might still have some school supplies as well we'll be handing out. So please be aware of that as we go forward. Obviously, in November, we're looking forward with eager anticipation to the Festival of Lights, which is going to happen Thanksgiving night. That's going to be the night we're going to kick it off. When it gets dark, we're going to light it up. And again, we're going to celebrate, again, just being able to do something different. Hey, this past week, we submitted some proposals for funding for things we want to do in the park. I need every one of you to touch and agree that when those that work for city council look at those proposals, that we will get approval. Okay? I need you just to agree with me. Pray that the proposals will be accepted, that they'll give us the funding so we can keep doing some phenomenal work. Okay? That's critical. All right? Want to keep those things in mind. Keep praying for our sick and shut in. Remember the Maxwell family who buried their mother on Friday. Remember Sister Jackie Lavender, who buried her sister this past Wednesday. Remember Victorious Believers, Superintendent Pryor, again, who buried his sister on Friday. Keep praying for, again, the other members of our church family. Sister Veda Weston is at home. And to my knowledge, there is no one else in the hospital. And last but not least, let me continue to remind you, for those of you that want to keep walking, the park is open. It will open at 8 o'clock. And it'll close at noon. We have officially closed the evening sessions. So it will not be opening anymore at 5:30 until we get ready for the Festival of Lights. Okay? So if you want to come over and walk, you can do that between 8 and noon, pretty much every day. But in the evenings, right now, it is officially closed until we do the Festival of Lights. And then we'll open it for a couple hours a day. We'll shut it down. I'll give you more pertinent information on that the week of, so you know what's going on with that. So again, just keep praying. Now, for those of you that want to support the Festival of Lights, you can Again, in your giving, notate that $100, $200, $500. If you want to sponsor a tree, if you want to sponsor various things, we're already working on it. Just give. Okay, trust me, I'm sure you're going to be pleased with the great work that's going to happen. Just give. Your money does count. Okay, I want you to be aware of that. All right. Hey, let's get into this outline. Again, the title of this series is Reset. R-E-S-E-T. And the word reset the R stands for rethink your current evaluation. The E stands for evaluate God's plan. The S stands for strategy. Develop a strategy. The E stands for eliminate barriers, and the T stands for trust God's process. All right. We think if you reset, you can develop a path to a better walk with God. And for the last couple of weeks, we've been dealing with the prodigal son. Luke chapter 15. Luke chapter 15, we've been dealing with that. I told you that there was 2 stories in the text, and I want to begin to deal with today. I want to deal with, and I'm just going to call it the other brother. All right? Remember the prodigal son, it was him, his father, and his brother. Now, let me make sure you really get the gist of this message. Okay? You need to understand this. Jesus is using this subject again to refocus the religious leaders that did not understand their calling, as it relates to their relationship with God. Okay? He is dealing with them because at the end of the day, the scribes and the Pharisees resented Jesus for welcoming sinners who desired forgiveness. That's the overall arching theme of what I'm dealing with. What I'm doing is giving you a more practical look at the characters in the story. All right? So I want you to keep that in mind. So today, we deal with, I call him the other brother. All right? Right around Luke chapter 15, verse 17, if you would look at that, I want you to see the brother in action. This is the prodigal son. And I'm going to read down, actually, I'm going to read actually about 10, 12 verses. So just hang in there with me, all right? It says, and when he came to himself, he said, this is the brother that has made a decision, the prodigal son, I need to go home. He has looked at his situation and he now needs to reset. Now watch what he does. He said, when he came to himself, he said, how many hired servants of my father's have bread enough to spare, and I perish with hunger? And then he says, I will arise and go to the father and will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before thee. The Pharisees can't stand that. All right, watch this, keep going. And am no more worthy to be called thy son, make me as one of thy hired servants. And when he arose and came to his father, but when he was yet a great way off, his father saw him and had compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. And the son said unto him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and in thy sight, and am no more worthy to be called thy son. Watch this now. But the father said to the servant, bring forth the best robe. Now watch this, because I want you to see some very particulars in this text here. This is going to be moving into the other brother. He says, bring forth the best robe and put on him, and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and shoot shoes on his feet. If you could, Brother Sims, just hit that fan right there. Just, nope, yep, just turn it off. Nope, the other one. Yep. Nope, that one right there. Okay, and then he says this in verse 23. He says, and bring hither, here it is right here, I want you to note this, the fatted calf. Note that there, and kill it, and let us eat and be merry. Okay, if you can turn that off, Brother Sims. All right, watch this now. He says in verse 24, he says, "For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found." And they began to be merry. Now watch this. Let's keep going because I want you to see. Now the other brother comes into the scene, or comes into the light. Now his elder brother was in the field, and as he came and drew nigh to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called one of the servants and asked what these things meant. All right. And he said unto him, "Thy brother is come, and thy father hath killed the fattest calf, because he had received him safe and sound." All right. Watch this. And he was angry. He was angry and would not go in. Therefore came his father out and entreated him. And he answering said to his father, "Lo, these many years do I serve thee, neither transgressed I at any time thy commandment. And yet," watch this now, watch his attitude, says Blanche Williams, "and yet thou never gavest me a kid." One was a calf, the other was a kid, "that I might make merry with my friends." Look at his attitude, Sis Sims. "But as soon as this thy son was come," watch this, this is critical, Sis Blanche Williams, watch this. He said, "which had devoured thy living with harlots, thou hast killed for him the fatted calf. And he said unto him, Son, thou art ever with me, and all that I have is thine. It was meet that we should make merry and be glad. For this thy brother was dead and is alive again, and was lost and is found." All right. I needed to get to that because I need you to see why this brother needed to reset. So I titled this, "The Other Brother, Reactions to a Brother's Return and a Father's Joy." All right. Now, he needed to reset. All right. At the end of the day, the other brother's actions, get this now, they highlight why a reset was necessary in his life. And while most people only focus on the actions of the prodigal son, says Patrick, the other brother also needed a reset in his life as it relates to return of the prodigal son to the father and his response to the father's joy. All right. And there are several things that highlight the other brother's lack of love for the prodigal son and his real disdain for his father. So let's take a minute to look at those. All right. So number one, the other brother need to reset because he too was also in a pig pen. All right. See, what most people don't understand in this text, and let me again welcome all of our virtual listeners in Washington, Kansas, Mississippi, Nashville, Tennessee, Texas, California, Ohio, Florida, Minnesota, Portage, Ann Arbor, Battle Creek, Ypsilanti, Kalamazoo, right here in Saginaw just as well. This guy was in a pig. There are two pig pens in this story. All right. The brother that had gone away, he was in a pig pen. All right. But here's what I want you to understand. What type of pig pen was the other brother in? All right. And I need you to understand now. He was in a pig pen or a hog pen because of his sinful attitude. All right. See, at the end of the day, the obvious one is a far off country. Okay. Where the prodigal son ended up as a result of his wasteful and foolish choices. But the obedient older brother was in a hog pen at home because of his sinful attitudes. Okay. He thought he was holy because of his external obedience to the father, but his heart, note this now, but in his heart he was wallowing in a pig pen of resentment and self-righteous attitudes. All right? He was hateful. He was spiteful. Okay? He was upset with his father. And one of the things that occurred to me when I look at this, when you begin to unfold this guy really has some problem with his father and his brother. All right? Now, so what am I trying to tell you? First of all, don't be so quick to envy others' lifestyles or perceived lifestyles. While you think this brother had it made, this brother was at home with his daddy. He had a pocket full of cash. Watch this now. I'm going to expose some of my stuff. And he was actually living off his father. All right? And yet he was miserable. Okay? That's what, don't envy because you don't know what's going on in my house. All right? Everything might look good on the outside, but you don't know what's going on the inside. Oh, they got the perfect marriage. Oh, they're so this. Oh, they're so that. See, you don't know what's going on at that house. People can put on a good front out in the public. Ask movie stars. They do it all the time. All right? So I need you to understand. And listen, the other thing I need to say to you is this. Be appreciative of parents who allow life's decisions to bring about transformation. Why am I saying that? Because sometimes I know as a parent we make some very tough decisions. And sometimes as parents, I know we don't want our children to suffer. I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't want my child to suffer. But, Sister Smith, I also realize that experiences, Sis Palmer, are the only way that we learn life's lessons. Okay? They're the only way we learn life's lessons. If you keep stopping your child from learning from life's lessons, you will have spoiled that child and set them up for failure in life. And I think that's critical for everybody to understand. Sometimes when your kids make tough decisions, they have to learn the penalty of those decisions. Stop trying to bail your child out every time they get in trouble. If they're getting in trouble all the time, it's because they're either hanging around the wrong people, they're always in the wrong place, they're making some bad decisions. I just find it amazing that you're always in trouble. And it's always somebody else's fault. No, it's your fault because obviously you don't have enough intellect to realize you hanging around the wrong people, number one. Number two, you don't have enough intellect to realize, okay, this atmosphere is not right. I need to get out of here. Well, I was going to sit there and watch them fight. That was a dumb decision. Okay? I want to see who was going to win. That was a dumb decision. Okay? Some stuff you need to learn how to walk away from. All right? Same way with people. When I look at this young man, it's critical for you to understand he was in a pig pen. All right. He was in a pig pen of resentment. Now, I'm presupposing, so let me theologically ramble because I see some stuff in this text. This boy was living off his daddy, but in actuality, he couldn't stand his father. And you see that in the text as he goes further on. Okay. He actually takes a moment to go off on his own dad. Now, what amazes me, Sis Redeemer, and I need you to unpack this stuff. I need you to see it's a whole bunch of stuff in it. It's not just sausage in the gumbo. There's some crab meat in the gumbo. All right, there's some shrimp in this gumbo. There's some okra in this gumbo. Don't just focus on the sausage. I need you to see some other stuff. And listen at this now, because see, most people don't see this in the text. When the prodigal son went and asked for his money, all right, note this now. The father gave the prodigal son his money. Watch this. Look, it's in the text. But he gave the other brother his money also. It's right there in the text. Now, let's unpack that for a minute and let's theologically ramble. By taking his money, was he actually saying, I wish he was dead also? Because the only way you got your inheritance is when your family died. All right? Now watch this now. But see, he decided to be a slickster. Because what he decided was, I'm not going to go away. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pocket my money and I'm going to live off the rest of the money that daddy has until there is no more, and I'll keep using my money. and then I'll keep my money. All right? I hope you're trying to get this because I need you to see it in the text. All right? So when I look at this, number one, understand that he too was also in a pig pen. All right? He too was in a pig pen. And there are two pig pens in this story. One, his heart was wallowing in the pig pen of resentment and self-righteous attitudes. Okay? That's the first thing I need you to see. Here's number two. The other brother needed a reset. Note this now. The other brother did not rebuke his brother for asking and did not take his inheritance. Note that now. This is why he needed let me say it again so I can make sure you get it. The other brother, when he heard his younger brother go to the father and say, give me mine, he should have checked him right there. But notice he didn't. And notice number two, if you will, that when the father gave the baby boy his money and went to give him his, he didn't refuse it. Okay? And that's why I told you earlier, could it be, Brother Sewell, that maybe he felt the same way, but he let the brother slip out there and fall. He maybe thought the brother was going to fall on his face by asking. I'm trying to get you to look more into this text. All right. Look at Luke 15, verse 11 and 12, because I need you to see it in case you think I'm making it up. Luke 15, verse 11 and 12. It says this. It says, and he said a certain man had two sons. All right. And verse 12 says, and the younger of them said to the father, give me the portion of goods that fall to me. And he divided unto them his living. The father literally gave them everything that he had within reason. Okay. It's right there. So that's huge because there again, I want to ask this question. Could it be that the other brother felt the same way about the father as the baby brother? All right. Could it be that the other brother wanted the prodigal son to fall flat on his face by asking? Maybe he always wanted it, but he just didn't know how. Okay. Watch this now. The other brother received his inheritance and decided to continue to live off the father. Now, to that, I say, wow. Okay? I say, wow, note this now, because he had a pocket of cash, which meant he now could go out and start on his own, but he stayed with the father. And believe it or not, I mean, if we're going to be real honest about this, there's a bunch of grown kids staying with their father right now, parents right now, that can make it out there, but they just rather not because they want to welch off of. Okay, y'all just got quiet there. You can make it, okay, but you choose not to. Now, I'm not telling you kick your kids out. Don't misunderstand me. We ain't even trying to go down that path. I'm saying there are some people that actually could, but Sis Jackson, at the end of the day, they'd rather not. Why? Because they'd rather live off, watch this now, they will live with you, eat your food, sleep in your bed, dirty your laundry and everything, and not give a dime. Now, I'm not talking about the people that are being responsible. Mama, I know I'm here with you for a while, so I'm going to make sure, Mama, I take care of you, okay? That means, Mama, I'm going to pay some bills. Mama, I'm going to do this. Mama, do that. That's called responsible, okay? That's called responsible. When you're living here, listen, it's not that your parents need it because they're already doing okay, but it's called respect and it's called appreciation, okay? Your mama going to cook whether you eat or not. The heat is going to be on whether you're in the house or not. But it's the whole idea that all of us are grown, but only one person paying the bills. Is that making sense? Okay? And so it shouldn't be that way. And so at the end of the day, parents, if you choose to allow your children or your adult children to stay, you need to again say to them, you're more than welcome to stay, but you also need to make sure you're being responsible. Meaning, if you're staying here, you need to make sure that you contribute to staying here. I mean, think about it. How much is rent in Saginaw? Rent in Saginaw is what, like $700 a month? Okay, $700 a month. And that's not including your consumers. That's not including potentially your cable bill. That's not including the water bill and all of the other. All right. Now, what I'm saying is be fair with your parents. Okay? Be fair with your parents. Be respectful of your parents. If they let you stay there, you already went out there with that rascal and found out that he wasn't right for you. Your parents told you that from day one. Now you got to come back home to mama. All right? Be respectful. I think that's critical, and I hope you understand that. All right? So here he is. This brother was living at home with a pocket full of cash and didn't think that he owed his father anything. That's why he needed a reset. Now let me say that again, Sister Brunel, because I don't think people heard me. First of all, the father gave you money. He gave you an inheritance. You decide to stay there. Okay? And at the end of the day, you got a pocket full of cash, but you're still living at home. You continue to live off the father, even though the father gave you your inheritance. You ain't contributing anything, nothing. There's something wrong with that picture. It's something wrong with that picture. And even now, realistically, what's wrong with blessing your parents for being good to you anyway? I'm just asking a question. Because I think at the end of the day, we have to understand, I know they're your parents. But remember now, when you were a kid, they didn't charge you rent. Now, you might have had to do a couple chores, and that was good for you. But the bottom line is, at least show some appreciation. All right? Here's number 3. And I need you to understand this. The reason why we all need to reset is because we can be in a far country without realizing it. Let me see if I can help you, Sis McNeil. Here this guy was, and let me define it. A far country is anywhere we choose to go outside of God's will. Here this young man was. He was living right at home, and yet he was completely disconnected from his father. Now, the prodigal son left home to go where he could live as he pleased without any restrictions. Right? The Bible says when he got his money, what did he do? He took off and went to a far country. He didn't know anybody, where he squandered every penny that the father had worked for to save for his life. Are you getting this, Ferris? The other brother stayed home physically, but he was really in a far country, Brother Simmons, because while he was at home, he was resentful of the father. Now, let me just throw this other piece in the mix. All right? This is at the end, but I want to expose it right now. If you would, go down to Luke chapter 15. And I want you to look, because I need to kind of open this so you can see it. Go to Luke 15 and verse number 30. Well, matter of fact, do verse 29. This is where the young man went off on his dad. Now watch his attitude. I need you to see it, Sis Blanche Williams, in the text. He says, and he answering his father said, lo, these many years do I serve thee. Neither transgress I at any time thy command. I lived at your house. I did what you told me to do. Look at his attitude. And yet thou never gavest me a kid. You ain't never did nothing for me. You ain't never celebrated me. You ain't never hold no party. Wait a minute, hold up. Slow your roll. First of all, you got your inheritance in your pocket. That didn't tell you that I loved you. Look at his attitude. He's mad because, all those years that he served, he says the father never gave him a party, nothing. Matter of fact, he is being, show you how mad he is. Remember, the father killed the fatted calf. He said, look, you didn't even give me a kid. Okay? A kid was of lesser value, not as big as a calf. Watch this. That I might make merry with my friends. Watch. So he's mad. That's one of the issues he's mad about. Watch verse 30. But as soon as thy son, notice he didn't say my brother. Are you feeling the animosity right now? He wouldn't even connect. As soon as my brother was come, he said, as soon as thy son was come. Now watch this now, Sis Blanche. This is going to blow your mind. I want you to see something about this boy, and we're going to theologically ramble. Which had devoured thy living with harlots. Wait a minute, stop. How do you know that? How do you know that the brother has spent his inheritance on prostitutes unless you knew what a brother was? Are y'all getting this? How would you even know that that's what he wasted his money on? Okay, how would you know that? He was in a far country. Unless you knew all along where he was. I'm just trying to unpack the story for you. Okay? But as soon as thy brother, thy son was come, Brother Simmons, which had devoured thy living with, how would you even know that? Unless you know where he is. And that says a whole lot about how you feel about your father and how you feel about your brother. Because if I knew that my brother was over in Bay City, over there with prostitutes, I'd tell my daddy. Am I making some, does that make sense to anybody? Okay. Matter of fact, if I didn't tell my dad, maybe I'd go over there and try to bring him back home. He knew where his brother was, and he knew what his brother was doing. Notice now, he says he squandered thy living. How would he know that? Because the servant just said he came back home. I'm trying to unpack it so you can see it in the text. How would you even know if you didn't know? Now, let me unpack that for a minute, because what that then says is, and I'm saying this to you as brothers and sisters, when you see a brother or a sister struggling and you know they're struggling, you have an obligation to do all you can to help them rebound and come out of the hog pen that they are in. Okay? The Bible says the strong ought to bear the infirmities of the weak. And when I mean brother and sister, I don't necessarily mean your physical brother and sister. It's your spiritual brother and sister, Sis Vera Jones, Sis Jackson. At the end of the day, you have to understand, we have a biblical obligation to edify one another. We are accountable to each other. This brother couldn't stand his brother, and he made it very clear that he didn't like his father because he knew what the brother was. He knew the brother was in trouble, and yet he said nothing. Did you see in that text where he said to his father in that text, he said, look, I've been serving you for years, and you ain't never gave me a party. You have never gave me a chance where I can bring my kid, my friends here and celebrate. Do you see what he thought about his father's money? See, he's caught up in Iville right now. The only thing he's concerned about, you guys is redeemed. He's selfish. He flat out, you never did it for me. I couldn't bring my boys up. Wait a minute, hold up. His father tells him, he said, look, as long as you've been with me, you've had access to everything that I had. Everything. Okay? But see, his thing was, when you look in this text, his thing was, I want to do some things. Watch this now. And I'm just kind of reading into the text. Could it be that the way he wanted to celebrate, he knew it didn't match his father's morals and standards? I'm just asking questions. I'm just theologically rambling. Because when I looked at this text, I clearly see this boy stayed at home, but he couldn't stand his father. Okay? He lived at home, but yet he was in a far country. All right? He was separated. He was disconnected from him emotionally. Watch this now, Sis Sims. One brother was feeding on pods, or wanted to feed on pods for pigs, but the other one had a heart full of unforgiveness and jealousy and bitter resentment towards his father and his brother. So guess what he was feeding on? He was feeding on resentment. He was feeding on unforgiveness. He was feeding on jealousy. He was angry. Okay? He, in essence, was taking advantage of his father while he was living at the house. Because think about it now. Let me go back and remind you. The father gave him his inheritance. He got his money in his pocket. And he's still living there off of what the father has left. He's not spending. There's nothing in the text that says that he took some of his money and gave it back to the father. When the father said, here yours and here yours, he should have said, no, father, no. That's my inheritance. He took it. Okay? And I wouldn't be too surprised if he always wanted it. He just never said nothing. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm just kind of reading into the text. Okay? I'm reading into the text. Let me give you point number 4. And one of the things, let me give a scripture to go with this first and foremost. Matthew 6:14. All right? And here's something that we have to understand. Bible says this, Matthew 6:14 and 15. It says, for if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if ye forgive not men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive you. Even at the very end of this text, the brother never comes around. He never comes around. Okay? He had resentment, unforgiveness. He was angry. He never comes around. He never reset. Okay? He never reset. Let me give you point 4, because this is what it's actually leading to. Here's point number 4. All right? And the other brother, son, I mean, it's real simple. The other brother never really cared for the prodigal son and lacked respect for the father. That's why he needed to reset. At the end of the day, when you look at this text, I just showed it to you. He said, look, all these years I served you. Now, for the record, Sis Blanche Williams, we don't know how long the prodigal son was gone. We know he was gone. And then it says, in a period of time, a famine came. So we don't know whether it was a month, whether it was 30 days, whether it was 2 weeks, whether it was a year, whether it was 5 years. But I want you to see the other brother's attitude. Okay? Let me point it out to you. Luke 15 and verse 29. I want you to see how angry this other brother is. Look at where he takes his father. He's been waiting for the moment to go off on his daddy. And he answering his father said, lo, these many years I served you. Now, I might be stretching this a little bit, but when I think about that, Sis Pam, it sounds to me like he hated the fact that he had to serve his father. All this time I've been serving you, and I've never done wrong at any time. I've done everything you asked me to do, and yet you never gave me a kid. You never fed me like that. You never let me have a good time with my friends. He's saying something in that text. All these years I've been serving you. Now, even though it says I served thee and I didn't never once go against your commands, he might have served, but he really didn't want to. Because why did he bring up all these years I've been serving you? All right? I mean, I'm just kind of, there again, I'm theologically rambling. Maybe you see some of the same stuff that I see. When he hears that his brothers come back home and he say, what is going on? He say, look, man, there's a party going on with your brother back home. All right. He wouldn't even go in. That's how mad he was. Did you see that in the text? He wouldn't even go back. He wouldn't even go in the house. He was outside fuming. He was mad. And what ultimately happened is the father had to go out to him. Did y'all see that in the text? The father had to go. He was outside fuming. And that gave him the moment, right? I mean, look in the text. I'm not making it up. Y'all pull it back. Let me see if I can pull it back up. What verse is that? Help me with that, Deacon Roscoe, because I want you to see it for yourself. Look at verse 20. Look at verse 24. Go to Luke 15, verse 24. The father said, my son is alive. He's happy. He said, my son was dead, and he is alive. He was lost and is found, and they began to be merry. Now watch verse 25. Watch this. Now his elder son was in the field, and as he came and drew nigh to the house, he heard music and dancing. Watch this. And he called one of the servants and says, hey, what's going on? Watch what the servant says. The servant said, thy brother is come, and thy father has killed the fattest calf. Notice the servant didn't say, man, your brother looked jacked up. Man, your brother, man, he smelled, he looked bad, man, he looked terrible. He said none of that in that text. He said, thy brother is back home, and thy father had killed the fatted calf because he had received him safe and sound. You're not seeing anything, all right? Watch the brother now. Go to the next verse. It says, and he was angry and would not go in. Therefore came his father out and confronted, addressed him. Your brother home, safe and sound. And this is the way you do it? Now watch this now. His father came out and said to him, what's going on? This was his moment to go off on his daddy. He said to his father, man, I've been serving you all this time, and I ain't never disobeyed you, and you ain't never once gave me a party. All right? You ain't even, but wait a minute, hold on. Watch what the father says. Go down, if you will, Deacon Roscoe, go down to, I want to say it's verse 31. I want you to show how mad he is. Watch what his father said. And he said, son, you have always been with me. Watch this now. Look what the father says. And all that I have is thine. Even though I gave you your inheritance, I never stopped blessing you. I never stopped allowing you to do anything you ever want to do. Everything that was mine was yours. My chariot, everything. But go back to the verse now. He said, look, you ain't never even gave me a kid. You ain't never let me bring my boys up in here and party like that, because his thinking was totally different. That's why he needed a reset. It's amazing to me when I look at this that he was at home, but yet he was far away from his father. And the way he talks to his father reeks of disrespect. Okay, here's a verse for you. I got about 3 or 4 minutes. Watch this now. Leviticus chapter number 19, verse 32. Watch what this verse says. Leviticus chapter 19, verse 32. Watch what it says. Now, this is the English Standard Version. Let me just read that in case they can't pull it up. You shall stand up before the gray head, and honor the face of an old man, and you shall fear your God. I am the Lord. All right, Leviticus 19, verse 32. What is God telling us? God is telling us in Leviticus 19 and 32 that we are to honor, okay? That we are to honor our elderly, okay? We're to honor them. If I have worked all my life and then I pass away and leave you anything, you ought to be grateful. Okay? You ought to be grateful. Here a young man is who, to me, is co-signing the actions of his brother, just in a silent way. And then when his brother takes off, it almost makes me think he wanted the same thing his brother wanted to do. The only difference was he didn't want to spend his money. He wanted to live off his father's money. So when I look at this text, here's another verse for you. Proverbs chapter 23 and verse 22. Proverbs 23, verse 22. He says this: hearken unto thy father that begat thee. Hearken unto the man that gave life, and despise not thy mother when she is old. That's all about respect. You don't have to agree with me, but there should be a sense of respect. Okay? At the end of the day, when this brother hears what the father is doing for the brother, it gives him the moment he wanted, Sis Blanche Williams, Sis Palmer, I've been waiting to go off. And he uses some buzzwords in the text. He says, you didn't even give me a kid. Listen, a kid is a goat. It's not a calf. All right? This was of less value than the calf. And he complains that while his father never gave him a thing of so little value as a kid, he said, look, you didn't even give me a kid, but you gave him a calf. That's to show you how nearsighted he was. The father gave him everything. And the father says that in the text, but yet he was ungrateful. And parents, word of advice for you. You can do what you want to do with it. When you have kids that are ungrateful for stuff that you work for and stuff that you give them, find somebody else that'll be grateful for it. Because I do realize sometimes your kids can be just flat out unthankful and ungrateful for stuff that you have. I don't want that. I don't want that old stuff. Okay, fine. No, I'll take, no. You've already told me how you feel about this stuff. Okay? Or if I come over your place and the stuff that I gave you, I never see it, then I got to ask a question. What did you do with it? Because if you weren't going to use it, you probably should have kept it with me. I probably should have kept it. I'm just asking questions. All right? Listen, his complaint was, you didn't even give me a kid, and you didn't let me party with my boys. All right? I mean, let's think about this, Sis Pam Brunell. First of all, you had money in your pocket. Huh? You got your inheritance. You could have did your own party, but no. You wanted the father to take what little money he had left and blow it on you. Huh? I mean, you got all your inheritance. You've not spent a dime of your money. You've not missed a meal. You've not paid a bill. You still got servants. You sleeping in a bed with silk sheets on it. And you got the nerve to complain? You've missed nothing. You still drive the father's chair. You got a security. You got thousands of dollars in your pocket, which you could take and have your own party with. But you mad because he didn't? I'm just asking questions. I could be wrong. Okay? That's why he needed to reset. And one of the things I want to point out to you, this last point I want to give you because my time is up. At the end of the day, the path of freedom from the hog pen. Watch this now. The prodigal son got out of his hog pen. The other brother, even right now, is still in his. All right? The path of freedom from the hog pens of life is paved with repentance and surrender to the will of the Father. This boy, sadly enough, never repented. You never see it in the text. He never was happy that his brother came home, and he was bitter at his father because the father welcomed the son or his other brother back. So watch this. He's still in the hog pen. The other brother has been delivered from the hog pen. The other brother reset. The prodigal son reset. The other brother never reset. Let me push you a little bit, Sis McLaren. Could it be that maybe some of y'all got the same issues going on in your family? Maybe you mad because you think mama gave them a little bit more than she gave you. Maybe you mad because daddy did this for them but didn't do it for you. It's probably time to do a reset. At the end of the day. All right? You don't always know the story. Every child is different, and you need to permit fathers and mothers the prerogative or the latitude to minister, to care for every child based on their needs, not based on what you see. You gave them more than you gave me. See, you need to reset because you're looking at this from your perspective and not from theirs. I told you that both of these guys in this text, both of them needed a reset. One did, one didn't. My question to you is, which one are you? Because we can make mistakes, and we will. But will you come to yourself? This guy got confronted by the father and didn't recognize his position, which is like the Pharisees and the scribes. They didn't realize they were already part of God's family. And when God went to welcome sinners in, they had an issue. That's the underlying motive behind this whole text. That's what Jesus is trying to say to them. I'm just using it more practically because it applies to us in life today. That's what it boils down to. Says Palmer, at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. So, hey, I got to quit here. That's the end of this. Stay tuned next week. We've got another group that's going to come in. We're going to talk about, again, that need to reset. Hope you've been blessed by, again, what has been put before you, Sis Jay, Sis Palmer, and the rest of you. Hey, we got worship service coming up here in about 25 plus minutes. Stay tuned. We'll be back.